September 12, 1958, 11:47 p.m. Big Sam's hand was shaking as his fingers wrapped around the pistol grip. Not from fear, he'd faced bullets before, but from what that bullet represented. $50,000. That was the price the 5 families had put on Bumpy Johnson's head, and Sam, the man who had protected Bumpy for 5 years, the man Bumpy called brother, was the one chosen to pull the trigger. The plan was simple: walk into Lenox Lounge, wait for the right moment, one shot to the back of the head, then disappear into the night. No chaos. No witnesses. Just business. Sam walked inside. Jazz floated through the smoke-filled room, glasses clinked, laughter mixed with low conversations. Bumpy sat at his usual table, calm, relaxed, his back turned, completely vulnerable. Sam moved closer, every step heavier than the last. He drew the gun, aimed, and pulled the trigger. Click! Nothing. The sound cut through the room like a blade. The band stopped mid-note. Conversations died instantly. 300 people turned to look as Bumpy Johnson slowly turned around in his chair, stared directly into Sam's eyes, and said 5 words that would become legend: "I've been counting on you." What no one in that room knew was that Bumpy Johnson had known about the hit for 3 weeks. And what he did during those 3 weeks didn't just save his life, it reshaped the balance of power in Harlem forever. By 1958, Bumpy wasn't just another gangster. He was Harlem's protector, the man who stood between his community and those who wanted to exploit it. The Italian mob had been trying for years to take over Harlem's numbers racket, a business built on small bets that added up to millions. They wanted it all, but they couldn't get past one man. Bumpy ruled through more than fear. He ruled through loyalty. He paid rent for struggling families, shielded black businesses from police harassment, and pushed back hard when outsiders tried to muscle in. Violence didn't work against him.
Bribes didn't work. Politics didn't work. By 1958, the 5 families were desperate. Frank Costello called a meeting. Representatives from all 5 families showed up to discuss one problem: Bumpy Johnson. Force had failed. Money had failed. Negotiation had failed. Carlo Gambino finally said what everyone was thinking: make him touchable. That's when the name Big Sam Foster came up. Sam was massive, loyal, and trusted completely. He'd taken bullets for Bumpy and stood beside him through every war. If anyone could get close enough to kill Bumpy Johnson, it was Sam. So they sent Tony Maroney, a collector who didn't use fists, but words. On August 20, 1958, Sam was leaving his apartment when a black Cadillac pulled up. Tony sat in the back, smiling calmly. He spoke about loyalty, then about money, then about Sam's daughter, sick with tuberculosis, drowning in medical bills. When Tony opened the briefcase, Sam saw $50,000, enough to save her, enough to escape this life. One shot, Tony said. September 12, Lenox Lounge. If Sam said no, his daughter would die slowly, and Sam would eventually die broke. Sam walked away, but the briefcase stayed with him. 3 days later, he made the call. He was in. What Sam didn't know was that before he ever stepped into that Cadillac, Bumpy already knew. Bumpy had eyes everywhere: bartenders, parking attendants, cab drivers. Someone saw Tony's car outside Sam's place and reported it. Bumpy could have eliminated Sam immediately, but instead, he watched. He saw the fear, the hesitation, the internal war. And instead of killing Sam, Bumpy chose to teach him, and everyone else, a lesson. He had a gunsmith modify Sam's weapon so it looked perfect but couldn't fire. Days before the hit, Bumpy had the real gun swapped without Sam ever noticing. Then he waited. Back at Lenox Lounge, after the click echoed through the room, Sam's strength vanished. His gun fell to the floor. His legs gave out. Bumpy didn't raise his voice. He told Sam he knew about his daughter and that her medical bills had already been paid that morning. He explained that he needed to know whether Sam would choose money over loyalty. Then Bumpy stood and told Sam to leave Harlem forever. If he ever returned, there would be no mercy. And before Sam left, Bumpy gave him one final instruction: when the Italians asked what happened, tell them the truth. Bumpy Johnson knew. Sam walked out of Lenox Lounge a broken man and never returned to Harlem. Bumpy turned to the crowd and made it clear that Harlem wasn't for sale, that loyalty couldn't be bought, and that anyone who tried to divide his people would pay for it. Glasses were raised, jazz resumed, and within minutes it was as if nothing had happened, except everything had changed. By morning, every mobster from Boston to Baltimore knew the story. The five families met again, and for the first time, they backed down. Carlo Gambino admitted they couldn't beat Bumpy Johnson. Bumpy lived another 10 years. He didn't die by a bullet but by a heart attack, fittingly inside Lenox Lounge. That night proved something lasting: the most dangerous weapon isn't a gun. It's knowing what's coming before your enemy does. Big Sam took the money and lost everything that mattered. Bumpy finished his drink, kept his throne, and remained the king of Harlem. Bumpy's control over Harlem didn't end that night at Lenox Lounge, it hardened. After the five families quietly pulled back, something rare happened in New York's underworld: boundaries were respected. Italian crews stayed south. Numbers money stayed in Harlem. And anyone thinking about testing those lines remembered one thing: Bumpy Johnson had outplayed the mob without firing a single shot. That kind of reputation was stronger than any army. Harlem hustlers walked a little taller, knowing their neighborhood wasn't just surviving, it was protected. But power like that doesn't come without consequences. Federal eyes never left Bumpy. The FBI didn't care about loyalty or community, they cared about leverage. Wiretaps followed him. Informants hovered. Every move Bumpy made was documented, studied, dissected. Yet even under constant pressure, Bumpy stayed disciplined. He didn't flaunt wealth. He didn't start unnecessary wars. He moved quietly, strategically, like a man who understood that lasting power isn't loud, it's controlled. Behind closed doors, Bumpy used the lesson of Big Sam to reinforce something deeper. Loyalty wasn't blind obedience, it was mutual responsibility. His people knew that if they were in trouble, Bumpy would step in, but betrayal would never be forgiven twice. That balance kept Harlem stable through years when other neighborhoods burned from internal wars. While Brooklyn and the Bronx saw bloodshed, Harlem stayed relatively calm, not because violence disappeared, but because everyone knew where the line was. Even the Italians changed how they spoke about him. In private meetings, Bumpy Johnson's name wasn't mentioned with anger anymore, but with caution. Carlo Gambino reportedly warned younger captains never to underestimate a man who thinks 10 moves ahead. He doesn't react, Gambino said. He prepares. And in that world, preparation was more dangerous than brute force. When Bumpy Johnson died in 1968, it wasn't in a hail of bullets or a dramatic showdown. It was sudden. Quiet. A heart attack at Lenox Lounge, the same place where he'd once humiliated the five families and rewrote the rules of the game. No enemies celebrated. No rivals rushed to claim Harlem. His death left a vacuum that proved just how rare he was, because no one could replace him. Long after he was gone, the story of Big Sam lived on. Parents told it to their children. Hustlers told it to newcomers. Not as a crime story, but as a warning. Power built on fear collapses. Power built on money disappears. But power built on loyalty, intelligence, and timing, that lasts. Bumpy Johnson understood something most men never do: the real throne isn't taken by force. It's held by foresight. And that's why, decades later, Bumpy Johnson is still remembered not just as a gangster, but as the king who made even the mob think twice before making their next move. Years later, old-timers in Harlem would say that after Bumpy's death, the neighborhood never felt the same. Not because crime disappeared, it didn't, but because order disappeared. Bumpy had understood something rare: chaos is bad for business, and fear alone can't hold a community together. Without him, Crews began testing each other. Small disputes turned into shootings. Trust eroded. The calm that once existed under his watch slowly cracked, proving that his influence had been stronger than anyone realized while he was alive. Law enforcement officers who had chased Bumpy for years quietly admitted something uncomfortable. Harlem under Bumpy Johnson had been more predictable, more stable. He didn't allow reckless violence. He didn't allow outsiders to stir chaos. When he gave his word, it meant something. And when he drew a line, no one crossed it twice. After he was gone, that invisible structure collapsed, replaced by short-term thinkers chasing fast money and faster reputations. The Italians never moved back in the way they once planned. Even without Bumpy alive, the memory of him lingered. His name still carried weight. Young mobsters heard the Lenox Lounge story like a warning passed down through generations. Not because of the dummy gun, but because of the patience behind it. Bumpy had shown that the most terrifying opponent isn't the loudest or the most violent, but the one who already knows your next move. Big Sam's fate became part of that lesson. Some said he lived quietly, kept his head down, never spoke of Harlem again. Others claimed he drank himself into obscurity, haunted by the moment that single click rewrote his life. Either way, his story ended the same in every telling, not with anger, but with regret. He saved his daughter, but lost his identity, his honor, and the only brotherhood that had ever truly protected him.